So a warm good morning to everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome to today's webinar on the topic cybersecurity threats during COVID-19, led by our founder and CEO KK Mookhey in alliance with Simandhar Education. Well, since the advent of the global pandemic, the world has witnessed a substantial surge in the number of cyber attacks, and it's crucial for us as individuals and professionals to be more aware of the cyber threats lurking around the corner. So without further ado, I request KK to kindly take over.
Hello, welcome everyone to this webinar. This is actually the second time that I'm doing a webinar on this topic. So in case any of you attended my previous webinar, you may choose to skip, or if you still like the topic so much, you're most welcome to attend. Without further ado, let's get started. So just a very quick background, I think many of you connected with me on LinkedIn as well recently, so you must be familiar with the fact that I started a cybersecurity company in 2001. We were one of the first companies in the space. And in those days I was hands-on. I did a lot of the pen testing work, security testing work myself. And since then, the company has grown to where we have close to 600 people now. We're spread across the world, and we offer a wide range of cybersecurity services to organizations all across the world. I also had the privilege of being invited to speak at Black Hat in 2004. And since then, basically been running the cybersecurity show. So let's look at what we're going to discuss now. A few pointers before we start. One is that feel free to put your questions in the Q&A chat as we go along. I will periodically check the chat, though not regularly, but I will check the chat, and if there are any questions I'd like to take, I'll take them as we go along. And of course, once I finish my presentation, I will address all the questions at the end of it. So, obviously, I think as with me, all of you are also attending this webinar from home. I'm sure the majority of you are connected from your home and not from your offices. And that is now what we call the new normal. As a company, we ourselves believe that we may not be coming back to work and in a regular way in our offices for many years now, many months, I would say, maybe not many years, but definitely many months. And we are all getting adjusted to this sort of a situation. So, for example, before this webinar, I had to go and tell my kids that I'm going to be addressing people, so please don't make a lot of noise and don't come into the room, though you still might expect them to come in. That's always a possibility. And they've also adjusted to this new normal, so whenever they need to speak to me, they'll come in quietly and make sure I go on mute, and then only they speak to me. So this is sort of where we are. In fact, many companies are announcing that they believe this will be a permanent setup for them for the years to come. Google has said work from home for till 2021. Twitter has said till 2021 for sure. TCS has said they expect 75% of their workforce to be working from homes. Facebook. So pretty much at least all IT tech-enabled firms have realized that work from home works. Now, in all of these changes, cyber attackers, cyber criminals are not far behind. They are always looking to see whether there is an opportunity to launch a new breed of attacks, to change the way they do some of their regular attacks. So that's something that they will never hesitate to go after. So what we are seeing basically is an increase in the number of attacks, specifically, where the new tools of communication like Zoom are being attacked. 0 days in Zoom or what, let me just step back and explain what a 0 day is. So cyber criminals or cyber security researchers also keep testing popular software to find vulnerabilities in that software. Now, researchers will typically share that information with the company. So they will go and tell Zoom that, hey, look, we found this particular issue and you guys should release a patch for it. And then they will keep quiet till Zoom actually releases a patch. And then they will go and announce it was me who found this issue, etc., etc. That's what we call responsible disclosure. And then cyber criminals, of course, will do it, but for their own gain. So what they will do is that they will either try to sell this vulnerability to somebody, or they will write a piece of code to exploit this vulnerability, to use this vulnerability to gain access to the user's system. And then they will build a whole toolkit around this and start launching attacks on all Zoom users across the globe. So that's the point when a criminal or a researcher finds an issue and does not tell the company is when it becomes a 0 day. So 0 day is because the days since the vulnerability is known hasn't even started. That count of days hasn't started. So 0 day vulnerabilities in software like Zoom and GoToMeeting and other such popular Teams, for example, what we are using, the price in the black market has risen dramatically, right? It is $500,000 to $1 million if you can find a vulnerability in Zoom, which can be exploited to give you full access to the end user's system. That's one thing that we're seeing. The other thing that we are seeing is that phishing attacks, again, I'm sure you're all familiar with phishing attacks, where somebody sends you a composed email, a well-composed email, tricks you into clicking on a link. And when you click on the link, they make you either disclose your credentials or they try and download some malware onto your system. So in those sorts of situations, we are finding that attackers are using COVID-19 as a pretext to launch more phishing attacks, which means that they are leveraging the fear or the uncertainty that we are all living in. Will a vaccine come out? Will a vaccine not come out? Or the fact that many of us connect to our corporate networks over VPN, so they could send a VPN link, and so on and so forth. So these are all the challenges that we are living with, and these are the sorts of attacks that we are seeing the bad actors launch. So we're definitely seeing quite a bit of increase in something called ransomware. Again, many of you would be familiar with ransomware. Ransomware is where the attacker gets access to your system some way or the other, like I said, through a patch that you forgot to apply, or you clicked on a link, or you disclose some credentials. Whichever way, they try and get access to one of your to your system, and then they install the software that actually encrypts your entire hard drive. And when they encrypt your hard drive, they basically end up preventing you from gaining access to the system. And then what they do is that they ask you to pay money. So that's where the ransom part comes in. They ask you to pay money in order to give you the decryption key. Now you may think that a decryption software might be available somewhere online, but usually that is not the case. So either you have a backup somewhere and you're able to restore your information from the backup, or you have to accept the loss of your data, or you have to agree to pay that ransom. So it is one of the most convenient ways, or one of the easiest ways for attackers to make a lot of money. So we're seeing definitely a rapid increase in ransomware. In fact, many large companies, Cognizant was attacked by ransomware. Garmin, which is the health device manufacturer, they were also attacked by ransomware. Many organizations have been attacked by ransomware. So let me just take a pause. There's a very interesting question that's come in the chat from Nitin. How can an organization joining a Zoom session as a participant protect themselves from Zoom threats? So there's been a lot of discussion around the security of Zoom, and let me give you my personal opinion. I think a lot of it is a bit of hype also. So Zoom in the initial years, pre-IPO, I would say, they didn't really care much about security. Like when researchers reported security issues, they just brushed that off and said, yeah, we don't think this is an issue, or they didn't even come out publicly and acknowledge it or release a patch. They didn't even have a dedicated security team. In fact, they didn't even have a chief information security officer. But one is that they went IPO last year. They had a massively successful IPO. In fact, the share price has gone up maybe about 10x since the IPO, thanks to the fact that Zoom is now the most popular software for online meetings. And so they realized that they no longer were a startup. They were definitely an enterprise software company, and they have significantly beefed up their spending on security. They have hired some very good consultants. They have hired, I think they now also have a CISO. So a lot of changes have happened when it comes to Zoom security. Also, they are very open now to suggestions. So for example, somebody found that all that you required to attend a Zoom meeting was the Zoom meeting number. And you could write a script to jump into multiple meeting rooms. At least one of those numbers out of thousands of tries would actually work. And so they quickly introduced the password feature. Now they have a waiting room to admit attendees. So they have all these features now added into it. So I would say that Zoom has definitely improved in terms of its security. I don't think that there is a massive risk in using Zoom. I would say that if you are an attendee and you're using the Zoom client, one is that please keep the client software updated. So whenever there is a prompt that there is an update available, don't say, yeah, I'll do it before the next meeting, because you will not do it before the next meeting. So do it now. So keep your software updated. Most of the updates relate to security patches. So that's very important. Second is, if you're still very, very concerned about the Zoom security, then you could attend Zoom meetings through the browser plugin itself. So you need not download the software if you are at risk. One of the things I regularly also do is that as soon as my Zoom meeting is over, I quit Zoom. So I right click on the button and I say quit Zoom, because I don't want Zoom running in the background for God knows what purposes, right? Because I know that Zoom does keep certain ports open, does keep certain connections, callbacks going to the Zoom servers, etc., etc. So I don't want any of those open, avenues on my system. So I do that with everything. I would quit Skype as soon as the meeting is done. Yeah, there is a bit of a nuisance. Next time you start, it takes a few seconds to load and all of that, but I just right click and quit, because otherwise it keeps running in the background. So I would say these would be some of the few things that you can do, but otherwise I don't think there is much to be concerned about when it comes to Zoom. So let's move ahead now. So I just wanted to share, some of the things that we did. It's a little old now, but I remember that we started our journey to work from home around the 7th or 8th of March, actually, which was very early. So we decided that we should start planning work from home around the 8th or 9th of, no, so 8th or 9th of March, we actually set up our teams. By that time, we had a team set up to take care of things. Around the 3rd of March, we actually just started sending out emails, and yeah, we set up the team and we said, okay, if we do have to work from home, let's go project by project, client by client, team by team, and see what would be the mechanisms to do so. Because our business is actually very varied. We have some projects where people are on site. We have some projects which are run out of our SOC, which is our Security Operations Center. We have some projects where consultants go on site and were on site at that point of time, and we were worried that if travel restrictions come in, like they had with the case of China, what would happen? So we started our planning actually very early. It was just 9 infections in the country when we started our planning process, because I told my team there's no harm in keeping a plan ready. We need not trigger the plan, but there's no harm in having our thoughts aligned and being ready. Around the 11th of March, actually, we asked all of our office teams, the people that were coming to office, to start working from home. Before this, we'd actually done partial work from home for our admin team, for our project management teams, all our support teams except finance. We had already asked them to start working from home as an experiment. And then we said, hey, things seem to be going fine. Then we told them, you guys stay home, don't come to work. So already we had the trial run that we did to push certain teams home to work from home worked for us. And so we didn't even call them back. They remained work from home even before the 11th of March. But by the 11th of March, we had actually everybody working from home. I believe our biggest challenges were the SOC, the finance team, and our development team. So our development team had a lot of stuff going on servers inside our office. So we have a server room, and people were working on those servers to do the development. We shifted all of that into the AWS environment. There were already some stuff running on AWS, whatever was running on-prem, we tried to push that. What we could not push, we enabled VPN connections. The challenge was with finance because they use Tally. Tally, we were not able to give remote access that conveniently till our finance head found a very elegant solution, which was to run Tally on the cloud. And we immediately enabled it. There was a cost to it, but I said, let's go ahead and do it. And so the finance team, which was one of the last dependencies on the office infrastructure, even they were able to move to the cloud. So, and they were able to work from home. So biggest challenge we had was with teams that were on site, that were on customer location. So we started sending out one-on-one emails to each customer. And I also, there were daily communications going out to all employees from me. So it was constant communication from me, from my desk saying, yeah, here's what's happening, here's what's happening. These are the teams that have moved out. These are the steps that we are taking. So by the 13th of March, we had 100% work from home for all of our 9 offices. In fact, not just for India, but even our Middle East offices, we had enabled work from home. So that basically left a lot of people on customer sites, which was close to about 200 people were still on customer locations. So we started writing to each of our customers and saying, we need to get our people working from home. Some of the customers agreed, but some of the customers said, no, we are still coming to office and things are still okay. We don't have any direction from management. So we said, you know what? At least let's plan for it. If we have to have our employees work from home, how are they going to connect to your network, etc., etc. So we said, at least let's do all of that planning. And we kept telling our employees that, if it reaches a stage where you have a real risk to your health, we will stop working on that project if necessary. And around 22nd of March is when the Prime Minister of the country announced the one-day curfew, which is when I think everybody realized across the board that a lockdown was definitely coming. So by that time, we had managed to actually even convince all our customers and move almost everybody on customer locations remotely. So I think the lesson that we learned is once we realized in our minds that it was important to plan, there was no point in waiting and seeing how the situation evolves. We said, let's plan it. Along with the planning, we said, why not do a trial run? The trial run was also done. Our planning was not just done at a very high level. We had a complete long Excel list of each employee, each project, each customer, and what would be the steps taken? Where was this customer currently in terms of working from home, etc. Our IT teams played a magnificent role. They were able to get hundreds of VPN connections updated. Laptops were arranged for people that were using desktops inside our office. And I even asked my team in the early days, do you think I'm overreacting? And they said, yes, we think you're overreacting. I said, it's better that we overreact and you guys think I'm being too paranoid. Then, we wait and watch, and then we are all in a mess. And that's what happened with many companies. Actually, they waited and watched and said, let's see. And then just the pain of working from home was much more. So the other thing is very important is clear and constant communication, right? So that's extremely important. Okay, so now what are some of the challenges that we are seeing in the current work from home setup? As I said, hackers are the first to recognize that there are issues. They've already started crafting their attacks, their phishing payload, phishing techniques are all being aligned and attuned to this sort of situation. We have seen a very rapid increase in ransomware. We have also seen a big increase in business email compromise. So if you are not familiar with this attack, it's actually a very devious attack. So what they do is that they manage to gain access to a company's mailbox, or let's say somebody in finance, and then they monitor whether an outgoing payment is due or an incoming payment is due, and then they send out a false email to the other party saying, hey, our bank account information has changed, please pay into this other account. And if that other party is not does not have very strong processes where it checks whether the bank account information has really changed and asks for offline confirmation, if it does not do any of that, they'll end up paying into the hacker's account instead of into the first company's account. So this is because of a lot of email authorization happening now. In my bank, they have email authorization, but I've explicitly told them that even if you receive an email, you have to call me and get a phone confirmation for any transaction. And that's exactly what they do. So all of the banks that we deal with, any email request that my finance team sends them, they will definitely call me to confirm that transaction. So if we look at the scenario from a sort of high level overview, I would say that there are 6 main concern areas, right? So the first concern is if the company's device, the device that the company has provided to the employee, that gets compromised. And you would be thinking, how could that happen? It's the same device, it's covered by the patch management system, it's covered by the antivirus system, etc. The point is that when people are working from home, the bandwidth becomes limited. They are not inside the local area network. They are getting their patches over VPN connections. The VPN goes over a home, fiber or nobody has a lease line in their homes, right? So because of these limited bandwidth connections that we all have, in fact, to be honest, right now I'm connected on my phone's hotspot, right? So because in this corner of the house, my Wi-Fi doesn't reach. So, because of these limited connections, patches are not getting applied as frequently as they should if that machine were inside the office network. So we are seeing a lot of compromises are happening. A lot of breaches are happening where the end device is being attacked and compromised because it's not getting the necessary patches. So this has become a real issue. Many companies are allowing employees to also connect using their personal device. Now for this, what companies have implemented is a system called a virtual desktop interface, or a VDI. Basically, it creates a sandbox environment inside the personal computer of the employee, and you can access all the corporate applications only within that sandbox environment, within that sort of envelope. And no data can be copied from applications within the envelope to the user's machine, and no data can flow from the user system into that envelope. So what that does is it creates an isolation between the corporate network and the employee's personal device, because of which if there is so my advice to clients has been that assume that the employee's personal device is compromised. On that assumption, we have to build all our security. So you might want to do VDI. You might want to also put more access control when an employee connects. You might want to test that VDI that it truly does not permit traffic to flow between or data to flow between the VDI environment, the virtual desktop, and the real desktop, right? So that should not happen. So there are significant measures that we can put in place, but it is important to put them and then periodically keep testing them. The other issue also is that when we connect to our personal Wi-Fi, many of us don't have a firewall, right? And many of us don't have a firewall running on our endpoints. And so that means that there is a possibility that ports could be open. Now, the good news is that even the cheapest Wi-Fi connection from, let's say, any ISP, right? They will deploy a Wi-Fi router in your house. And that Wi-Fi router does have very limited very basic, I would say, traffic limiting capabilities. So in the sense that it does not allow outside traffic to come in, it does not do what we call natting. It does not do default natting. So it doesn't expose all your ports to the outside internet. So you actually have to go into the Wi-Fi router and open up a port if you want to expose some service or some port from inside your home network to the outside. It does allow all inside traffic to go outside, but it does by default block all outside traffic coming inside. Having said that, we did notice a very interesting attack on one of our customer networks where the employee had connected using the cable, the Ethernet cable. They had connected, to the internet, and because they had connected using a cable and not the Wi-Fi, there was, all the ports got exposed and their system got breached because of an RDP attack. So here's an interesting question from Fahim. Many employers still do not enable remote access to business applications and data because of security concerns or a lack of investment in IT infrastructure, ICT investment. Can you highlight the security concerns for remote working and how can these security risks be mitigated? That's exactly what we are talking about, Fahim. So the one thing right now we're addressing the risks, and as we go along, we'll definitely look at the mitigation measures. If your question still remains unanswered, we'll definitely look to talk about it. Kiran Kumar has a question. Attacks can also be there on the bandwidth. Yes, attacks can definitely be there on the bandwidth also. My son is taking his classes on Zoom. Yes, both my kids are taking classes on Zoom. He's in class 4. The morning classes go fine, but the class between 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. don't go properly. It always shows connecting after 12 p.m. again. So what type of? This may be an ISP issue. It may not really be a security issue. So you might want to just switch over. I mean, many times we have to switch over our kids' connections to the hotspot. So you might also want to explore doing that. Nitin has a good point. For mitigating ransomware, an offline backup is recommended, but at the same time, backup vendors are pushing online backups, claiming these are ransomware proof. What is your take on this? If you look at software like Dhruva, they take multiple copies of your backup. So you can actually put all your sensitive or critical data onto a particular location where the cloud-based backup will pick it up. It could be Dropbox or any of these also. And you have the option also to create multiple backups. So one of these backups will not be encrypted. And also when your files get encrypted, then your Dropbox will software will also get encrypted so that communication will break. So your last backup will still be secure. So cloud-based backups should actually make you ransomware proof. That's right. I would still say that once in a month, it might not be a bad idea to just keep a 1 terabyte hard drive and keep taking your personal backup on that. And anyway, we are all at home. Our USB backups are also at home. Most of the 1 terabyte USB storage devices come with passwords and encryption, so you can use that. That will really give you enough peace of mind. And I'll come to some of the questions later on. The third risk that I foresee or I perceive is the mistaken leakage of data. You can compare number 3 and number 6. So number 3 is where data gets leaked by mistake, and number 6 is where an employee actually wants to leak data. Now, why do I put number 6 right at the end? Because I think as owners of business, we spend a lot of time suddenly worrying about our employees going rogue because they're sitting at home. So I feel this is wrong. I don't think employees are going to become, suddenly go rogue or become less loyal to the company because they're sitting at home. I think it's quite the opposite. In fact, if we are able to communicate to employees in a healthy way, we are able to maintain channels of communication, we are able to regularly reach out to them and maintain a very strong level of connect to each of our employees. I don't see why they would feel any reason to be less, loyal or feel less loyalty or less commitment to the company than when they were coming to work. So I don't think that, I mean, the risk level from an employee purposefully trying to leak data remains at the same level. I don't think the mentality of an employee will change in the negative direction to that extent. What I am concerned more about is the mistaken leakage of data. For example, I'm sure as with many of you, my kids also join their Zoom classes from my laptop or from my phone. And my elder kid, I've seen that while her class is going on now, she has started to open up other tabs and started to explore other areas of the computer. So there is a chance that she may end up accessing a file or doing something which or clicking a link actually through which this information could get leaked out. So because of this shared device usage, there is definitely a possibility of inadvertent leakage of data. For this purpose, I have agreed, my wife and I have agreed that it might be better to just procure an additional, low-end tablet and give it to her for her classes and put all sorts of parental controls and other, apps on it to ensure that she does not misuse the device. Of course, we hover around the kids as much as we can. But the shared usage of devices can definitely be a source of mistaken leakage of data or inadvertent leakage of data. What companies have done in this regard also is that they have put what we call as they have restricted technically what is called as split tunneling. So what that means is that the corporate device uh, cannot be connected to the corporate network while still going out on the personal internet. So you can block that. They can only go to the internet through the corporate network itself. What that means is that then the corporate firewall, the corporate proxy policies will get enforced, and the employee's laptop will sort of live in the same security environment as it did when it was online, also on site, on-prem. Also, you can maintain the same level of USB access control. You can even further limit USB access if you have granted it to certain users. Because what are they going to do now with putting data on USB? You can't go anywhere and give that information to a colleague. So you will have to end up using online systems to share data with your colleagues or with your team members. So you can enhance the restrictions in terms of even reducing those employees that you had given USB access to. You can even remove local admin access. So you can put a lot of controls on the endpoint to prevent inadvertent leakage of data. You can also discourage your employees from letting this laptop be used for for a shared purpose. In fact, like I said, if you have enforced the laptop to go through the corporate network to the internet, then anyway it will become a little useless because all the school apps and other apps will not get connected. You can put rules to block that. So these are some of the things that you can do. Loss of data via ransomware. As I said, because we are missing out on applying patches that frequently, ransomware is a real possibility. The number one mechanism to save ourselves from ransomware is definitely backups, awareness, and monitoring the patch levels more closely. So if you're seeing a sudden drop in application of patches, then that should be a cause for concern, and you should figure out a way in which patches can be more properly deployed on the endpoints. We are also recommending to customers to start strongly evaluating the use of EDR. So an endpoint detection and response system will go over and above an antivirus, and even if a system is not patched, it will be able to detect that there is an attack that is happening or a potential compromise has happened. We have had customers that had deployed EDR be able to detect attacks which a typical a typical antivirus would not have been able to detect, even on patched systems. Business email compromise, again, I spoke about, very important to increase employee awareness, especially in the financial teams. We even appreciate our finance team members who are able to pick up a phishing attack or a potential business email compromise attack. So we strongly, appreciate them publicly that, hey, look, they picked this up very quickly. And that sort of makes them even more aware and keeps their eyes and ears open for any suspicious transaction requests that come in. We have told all of them that no banking information change request is to be accepted. And we've even sent out communication. Most of our customers are enterprise customers, so they would not accept just an email saying our bank account information has changed. They would definitely want to see more documentation or proof, or they might even call us if they did get such an email. So fortunately, touch wood, we have been safe from business email compromise, but this risk exists for everybody. I've seen especially small and medium businesses like ours fall prey and suffer quite a lot of financial damage, right? Rogue employee, like I said, you can definitely improve your the culture of the company. Create. So we do, for example, some of the things we do monthly town halls. We did an employee satisfaction survey recently. I have set up a form where people having challenges on work from home can communicate, and then we address this. So we have senior management meetings regularly to look at how what are the challenges that people are facing working from home. How can we address it? Regular emails go out. We're doing things to help employees de-stress. We've signed up with the meditation app. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do to actually build stronger bonds with our teams and make them feel that that their concerns and interests are really important to the organization, and that we're doing whatever we can to address them. So I think we've discussed this: insecure Wi-Fi networks, personal devices that are poorly protected, malicious emails targeting employees, lack of awareness, hackers wanting to attack customer VPNs, corporate VPNs. So definitely from an end user perspective, I would say go check out your router Wi-Fi settings. It has an admin access. Make sure that admin access is not available on the public IP address. If you don't know how to fix this, you can always talk to your ISP. Change the default admin password. Make sure that you're not connected over WPA and WEP. You're connected over WPA2, or if your device supports WPA3. Don't share network access very easily to other devices. As much as possible, disallow the shared usage of devices. So, as I said, we've figured out spare devices or spare laptops on which the kids can do their online classes. As much as possible, we don't want them using our office laptops. Customers have also ended up sending desktops home. So desktops, the risk is that somebody pulls out the hard drive or loses the hard drive of the desktop, because typically we don't enforce hard drive encryption on desktops. So that is a risk, and I think if you're really paranoid as an organization and you still have to give people desktops, then best might be to look at disk encryption, which is mentioned here. So one of the challenges that we haven't discussed is that there is definitely a massive increase in the adoption of cloud computing. Even in our organization, we see it. Whenever we need a new thing or a new software or a new system, the first is to look at what's available in the cloud, right? So our HRMS in the cloud is already in the cloud. Our project management is in the cloud. Our CRM is in the cloud. Now our finance and tally is also in the cloud. Office 365 we adopt. So we are almost, our SOC is moving to the cloud completely. So, I think by the end of September, we will be 100% in the cloud. And obviously this creates more risks for us. Many of our own IT teams don't understand the cloud related risks. One of the concerns we have is that we use O365. So what if people have put up data on OneDrive folders and that's being shared? We're looking for ways to determine all the OneDrive shared folders on our O365 environment and how to check the access control on it. Again, with cloud, it's very easy for somebody to leak out data. So these are all of the concerns that we have, and also, more and more organizations are adopting cloud without telling their IT teams. So business units within an organization are adopting the cloud. This is what we call shadow IT, the IT that happens outside the purview of the IT team. So so for example, for a business head of marketing, it's very easy for them to simply say, hey, let's check out this new application or this new cloud-based service, because it gives us this great advantage. And then they just send in a request to IT that we want this customer data from this date to this date. Now, IT, once it receives the approved request, is simply going to go ahead and share that data. This data will then be taken by the marketing unit and shared with the cloud service provider. And now, if they agree that this looks good, then this will become a regular thing. Even API-based connections can happen. So, and then suddenly, you have a lot of your sensitive data on the cloud. You haven't checked the cloud service providers controls. You haven't audited them. You haven't check what's in the agreement, whose responsibility lies where. So all of this is called shadow IT, where the IT team and the security team are unable to supervise and govern this adoption of IT. So here are some of the measures, to answer Fahim's question. I think first and foremost, we must refocus on basic hygiene, right? So it's very important that we relook at things that constitute basic security hygiene. So ensure strong passwords, even for cloud-enabled apps. So you might want to start using some cloud-based single sign-on service, or so in our case, for example, we say that no, we will adopt a cloud app only if it supports Office 365 authentication. Now, some of our old apps don't support it, which is tragic. But we are forcing that any new cloud-based application that we adopt, it must integrate with Office 365, because I cannot manage user and roles across, a dozen different cloud apps separately. So I have to integrate it with Office 365, and then automatically the hygiene of strong passwords comes in. That's one. The other thing is that we have MFA enabled on all our user IDs. So this is not optional. MFA is enforced across all our user IDs, not only for VPN connections, but also for email access. So all O365 access is multi-factor enabled for us. And I think this is also non-negotiable. We have also, focused on a proper inventory to know which devices are where, because there's a lot of now device movement happening. If an employee leaves, their devices with them, we ask them to ship it to us. If our device is is spoiled, then how do we ensure that it's mapped and the device comes back and it's fixed and it goes back, all of that. Patch management, again, endpoint security measures such as patch management, very important to monitor. As I said, patches are getting more and more delayed. You can enhance your USB controls. You can enhance, you can even deploy, as I said, EDR on any of your, on at least some of your critical endpoints, and then expand the usage. So for example, we are partnered with an EDR company called Silence, which is a BlackBerry company, and we have deployed EDR on all our SOC machines. And this year we have a plan to deploy it on all our 500 plus endpoints, 600 endpoints. So that's something that you should definitely evaluate. BYOD technologies should be deployed to protect employees' personal devices. Yeah, these also run in the cloud. Regular communications with employees, increase end user awareness, webinars, contests, do whatever you can to keep drilling the. So one of the things that we suggest to customers is don't just drill the corporate policies as part of your awareness training. Also educate customers about how they can keep their families secure. What are the risks to their children from things like cyberbullying? What are the risks from online crimes against children? In fact, I did a very interesting interview with an expert in this field yesterday, and we will shortly be publishing that interview on our YouTube channel. So please watch out for that interview. I think it's so useful. I learned so much during that interview, and I think any parent that has kids getting devices or access to devices should definitely take a look. There was so much good information and insight in that. Definitely, if we promote this sort of awareness amongst our employees, then they will definitely accept the corporate message also more happily. Enforce internet policies even for home users, so don't give them internet access unless they go via the office internet connection. Relook at your internet security policy, corporate security policy. So you might want to relook at your corporate cloud security policy, guidelines for using software like Zoom, etc. And definitely relook at how strong your backups are, how well your backup mechanisms are working. And worst case, if your endpoints do get compromised by ransomware, what's your backup plan? So that's very important. And finally, I would say that the thing that I've been harping on from the start of this session is that this is actually a great time to relook at the culture of your company, to promote more communication between senior management across all the layers of the organization, to take this as an opportunity to build bridges, to build stronger connects with the team, and also encourage them to come forward and share their concerns and their thoughts. And psychologically, this is definitely a high pressure situation for many of us in our homes. We are not used to kids and families and other people working. They are not used to us sitting and working all day long in front of a laptop. Kids are not used to staying at home. So all this pressure starts to build up. So whatever you can do to ease this situation for employees, we must look to do that. In conclusion, before we go to the Q&A, it's important to evangelize endpoint security. As I said, don't just tell them to secure, keep their corporate data and corporate systems secured, but also tell them how they can keep their personal lives and keep their kids secured. So all that will give you more acceptability. Assume if you're giving personal device access to the corporate network, then assume that the personal device is compromised. So please go ahead and implement VDI, implement mobile device management, sandboxing, whatever you can. Focus back again on the standard hygiene measures which we take for granted. Relook at the fact that how is your antivirus progressing, updates, patching of operating system and other software, list of installed software. Is that showing any deviation? Are people being able to bypass controls and install new software? CISOs and CTOs should talk more about the risks from shadow IT. So they should reach out more to their businesses and say, hey, we know that you will want to now adopt cloud more rapidly. So please come and talk to us. They should evangelize the risks from cloud security and promote the adoption of cloud computing, but in a more secure way. Ransomware we spoke about, phishing we spoke about. Go test all the controls. See, in the initial days, in the period of March, April, everybody did the most that they could to just enable the work from home to start. But now it is important that the security aspect of it should be looked at. So if we don't do that, then we will remain vulnerable. So it's very important that while the initial few weeks were spent in making sure that access is there, uptime is there, now it's a good. So this is what we did, right? We went back and looked at all the people that we had given VPN access to. Do they still need it? Revalidated all the firewall configuration changes we had made. Do they make sense? Can we tighten them up further? So on and so forth. Culture change, multi-factor, we spoke about all of these things. So excellent. Let's look at some of the questions now. Can we make use of Microsoft Azure for virtual desktop access for our employees and share work data securely? Yes, Azure and AWS workspaces are good options. You can definitely look at those. Is there any way to track our device because laptops go in and out and change employees' hands? Yes, there are multiple tools available to do this. Any mobile device management software should also be able to give you the GPS coordinates of the person's laptop. How safe is it to use official email on BlackBerry Workbench? To be honest, I don't know about BlackBerry Workbench specifically. But I would say that BlackBerry definitely has immense focus on security, right? I mean, they were built for that. We haven't heard too many issues with BlackBerry in terms of security. So I would say that I would trust BlackBerry Workbench, but you can always do a little bit of testing around it to make sure that the sandboxing works as advertised. So definitely you can do that. We use OneDrive and Teams and give secure access to employees for work from home. How can we put more protective controls? This is a great question. Like I said, we are also struggling on this part. We are also trying to figure out. So Office 365, I think from E3 or E5, E3 onwards does give you some level of DLP capability. So you can put rules in place. So some of our rules are, emails sent out to Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo addresses. We also have rules in place to check the size of a file being uploaded if it's a very large upload of a file or a folder on OneDrive. So we look at all of those aspects also. Excuse me. So those are some of the things that you could look out for. And again, awareness is very important. Spreading more awareness about the risks is more important. I would also emphasize here, that at the end of the day, I know that if one of my employee does want to leak out data, they can probably figure out a way to do that. So there is only so much that we can do to prevent a committed employee from leaking. I mean, I would not say committed employee, but I would say an employee that has decided to leak data. They'll probably figure out some, and we work with security guys, right? So they'll, even if we deploy a DLP, they'll figure something else out. Having said that, we are looking to deploy a DLP, a proper DLP, not just the DLP capabilities within Office 365. So I mean, I'm saying that an employee might still be able to figure out a way. So what's important is to make your business resilient, right? So one of the things that we do is, if we do find an employee has leaked out data, we don't actually let them go from the company. We reprimand them very severely. We tell them that this will look very bad if it comes on your background check report. It could harm your career. And then we trust the fact that employees talk to other employees to let them spread the message that there is a concept called background check. And if we don't want to go the legal route, but we definitely want to give a strong message that it's a small industry. People speak. Your background check, if it comes out negative, the chances that you'll be hired by a Wipro or an Infosys or a Big Four will be gone to zero. So you will not get hired by them if we put in the report that you leaked out data, right? So I think that weighs strongly on employees. And Nitin has a question: how a company should deal with loss of data in case confidential customer information is leaked. So this should be addressed, Nitin, in your incident response plan. You should have a detailed incident response plan that talks about how will you handle such a situation. My advice is to face it upfront. Honestly, this has happened in 20 years of running the company. I wouldn't say that our record is spotless. It does happen. We cannot control 600 employees. People can go rogue. They can share a file which they feel they created, so it's their IP. We have to deal with that situation by first of all telling a customer that this has happened. I have seen in 100% of the cases where we accept our mistake, where we say this is a measure we have taken. Our customers, in fact, have come and told to us, yeah, please don't fire this guy or this girl. Please don't let it harm their career. It's a mistake that has happened. Please get a written apology from this person and let's move on. Many customers have even said, we don't want to change this employee your employee working on our project. We're okay, but we want sincere apology, sincere reprimand done. But that's it. In fact, one of our customer CISOs even said, KK, please don't put it on their official file. We don't want at this stage of their career to have such a black mark on their official file. So we've always found that customers are very understanding. It's important to be upfront, to be honest, to share what has happened, what are measures you've taken. And then, if the customer were to insist that this person be taken off the project, then we would take them off the project. So so that's my view on this point. When you move data to the cloud, how to manage security of data in cloud, especially addressing internal threats from Arun. Arun, cloud security is a vast topic. I would at this point in time only advise that you visit the Cloud Security Alliance website, and they have a very detailed checklist. They have sample contracts, that clauses that you can put in your agreement with the cloud service provider. So these are definitely aspects that you should explore. The OASP has a cloud security top 10 checklist. A lot of cloud security actually boils down to what's your responsibility and what's the responsibility of the cloud service provider. As long as both sides have a fair understanding of it, you can then try and figure out much better what the responsibilities that lie with you, how can you manage those. The responsibilities that lie with the cloud service provider have to be enforced through the contract. So your legal has to be involved, all the business heads have to be involved, your CXOs have to be involved, CEO, CO, they have to understand what is at stake over here. While adoption of new technology, signing up with a new partner is always exciting. Offering some great capability to your end customers is always very exciting. But at the end of the day, they have to understand the risks from it. And Cloud Security Alliance and the OWASP Cloud Security Checklist provide a great way to get guidance on what are the risks and how best you can address those risks. KK, what's your outlook on this whole work from home thing? Is it here to stay, or things will go back on track with a mix of both work from home and work from office? I think things will go back to a mix, most likely. I don't think permanent work from home is actually advisable, to be honest. I mean, it's great in some aspects, but it sucks in some other aspects, right? I really would like to meet my colleagues. I would like to sit across the table and have a chat with them, sit and share a cup of coffee. So I think those human interactions are what make us a social animal, right? So without those, for example, something like this, right? Doing this in person in a room would have been so much more fun, right? So I don't think we're going to give up on that. I think that is what basically makes us human. So I doubt that we will suddenly change our approach in that respect. I think as soon as it becomes safe to start going to office, which might be either when there is sufficient herd immunity. Sorry about that, my phone was losing charge. So as soon as there is sufficient herd immunity within a city, or a vaccine comes out, and things become safer to go back to work, I think we will all want to go back to work. I, for one, would definitely want to go back to office. So it might take a year, but I don't think that this is the future. But yeah, I don't think it'll be 100% work from office or 100% work from home. I agree that it'll largely be a mix of both. Do you suggest whitelisting to prevent users downloading and installing software? Nitin's question. Some software do not need admin access to be installed. Actually, you can just block any exe or MSI download, right? So it doesn't matter whether the software needs admin access or doesn't need it. Any software installation would be blocked. EDRs would block any installation also, because they do have whitelisting capability. So yeah, I mean, I would advise that you explore an EDR. Nitin has a question. Any parental control software you can suggest? So sorry, Nitin. This is a topic I just started thinking about yesterday. Actually, my kids are still quite small. They're 4 and 6, so I don't trust their skill set to the level where I need a parental control software. But definitely, in the next few weeks, for my 6-year-old at least, I will start doing, because I've seen that she's getting more curious and figuring out how to do stuff. So I want to make sure that. So I don't have a specific name, actually, honestly, of a software, but I'm sure that there will be many. Let's see if somebody else in the chat has some ideas. Can you share a cybersecurity assessment checklist from Fahim for this particular purpose, which is the remote setup? We do have a checklist. It's on our website. Let me see if I can share a link here. Anurag, while I'm answering the questions, can you dig up a link to that checklist and just put it on the chat?
Sure, KK.
Surojit has a question. Tally on the cloud is quite slow compared to normal Office. Is it the same with your finance team? I have to check with them. This might be an issue either on the end user internet side, or it could be an issue on the cloud Tally provider side. So we'll have to check. My finance, I have a review meeting with them today. This is a good question. I'll ask them today. Kiran also has a question about parental control software. So yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't have some ready names on that at this point in time. Anybody else has, feel free to, suggest. Oh, Venkatesh, you have a brilliant question. I would definitely want to answer this. Why are there very few opportunities for freshers to get into the cybersecurity field? Me being a fresher, I have applied to many companies for VAPT. I have noticed that 70 to 80% of the companies look for experienced candidates. So can you please share your thoughts on this? I know this is not related to today's session, but if you can please share. So Venkatesh, I have actually been drafting in an article on what I would look for in a fresher, right? So it's a fairly detailed article, but I can share some pointers with you. One is that, freshers today have an opportunity which in my day when I was a fresher, we didn't have, right? So for example, you can actually at a very low cost set up a cloud account and set up all sorts of servers from Solaris to Oracle to Red Hat Linux and learn about the security measures. You have online blog posts, you have videos, you have Coursera, edX. I mean, the volume of information that is out there for somebody who wants to learn on their own is massive. So the problem is not experience. The problem is the passion and the will to learn. One of the things that I find is that freshers, when they come for interviews, all that they've done is run Nmap and some tools on Kali Linux. No, we don't look for that necessarily. What I want to know first is how strong your TCP/IP fundamentals are, how strongly you understand basic Windows security measures. For example, if I ask you what's a Windows service, do you know that? Do you know what the event viewer is? Do you know basics of Active Directory? I'm not saying that you have to be an expert. Do you know, in Unix, where are the logs stored? What is syslog? What are the what is PAM, pluggable authentication modules in Linux? These are basics that it takes about a couple of days on each subject to study. So I would say network fundamentals, Linux, Windows fundamentals, Active Directory fundamentals. These are non-negotiable, right? If you can come with this knowledge, then of course familiarity with Kali Linux, the tools that are available over there, for example, and protocol know-how. When I say network fundamentals, I would want to know, you can explain to me how does DNS work? What are the attacks against DNS? What are the tools that you will use to attack a DNS port? What is the port number for DNS? What's the difference between TCP53 and UDP53? Why does DNS run on both those ports, etc., etc. These are the aspects that we look out for. Nmap, when you say you know how to run Nmap, what are the different options that you have in Nmap? What is the half open scan? What is a full scan? What is a fin scan? Those sorts of things, basics of TCP/IP flags, all of that. These are some of the pieces that we look out for. Second, information on so very early in my career, one of the challenges that I had to overcome was how to clean an infected system, right? And I think that teaches you a lot, right? So if you can figure out how to clean an infected system, like go and look in the registry where the startup programs are, look for running processes, link a running process to an open port number. How do you do that? What netstat options will give you that information? How do you review the just to give you an example, last week I was at my parents' house and my mother was complaining that her system is giving her some problems. So I just opened up the task viewer and started scrolling to it. So my wife was sitting next to me and she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking at the task viewer. She said, how can you figure out by just eyeballing the task viewer entries, which is suspicious and which is not? I said, once you do it a few hundred times, you know what is suspicious and what is not. So I said, there are some clues, like there are some signed software. They have the name of the authority which has supplied that software. Those are clearly legitimate, right? Like a Microsoft software is very unlikely to be a malware signed by Microsoft or signed by Lenovo, etc. So I said those I can eliminate from my analysis. The rest I can go deeper, and that leaves about 5 or 6 EXEs running which look very suspicious. And then I can trace them back to where they are installed. Are they running in the startup programs, etc. So that basic logs, being able to look at logs and analyze logs, look at a network diagram. So I would definitely say freshers have a big chance if you are able to demonstrate. So don't come to me and say I've done bug bounty and I found cross-site scripting across 10 websites and that's my claim to fame. Anybody can do that, right? Any kid can do that. That doesn't tell me, show me your passion, show me your commitment to the field. So I would say there are many things that you can do to be more than just a regular fresher. Having said that, Venkatesh, the other issue is that jobs are not aplenty today, right? Jobs are at hold. We are not hiring as rapidly as we were. We used to hire 20 to 30 people every month. Now we are hiring 4 to 5 people every month. So you will definitely have to wait for the pandemic to play out, for economies to recover, for the job market to come back to what it was. But that's a matter of a few months, maybe 6 to 12 months. Until then, I would definitely say keep working on your art, keep working on your skill, and keep improving. OK, I think we'll just take a few more questions, folks, because we have crossed our time. I also do have I'm sorry, but I do have another meeting to jump into in the next 20 minutes. So we'll just take another 5 questions. Okay, let's see. My kids download apps on Android phone anyway to stop them. Yeah, scold them. Yeah, tell them you will take away the device from them. My kids used to do that. So I don't give them a phone, right? My wife and I have decided not to give them a phone. I don't know what will happen on the tablet, but on a laptop they can't do anything. So we've said laptop is actually a bit safer, but it is a struggle. I actually don't know the answer to the technical control of devices from kids. Maybe we'll do a session on this. I will do a little bit more research on this. Most of the entry level roles recruiters ask for 3+ years experience. How fair is this? Yeah, it's not fair, but it's a chicken and egg situation in any industry. So like the advice I gave earlier, you definitely need to work on a lot of a lot at your own end to enhance your skills, to demonstrate, like cloud security, right? You can learn so much. You can do an Azure. If you do an Azure or AWS basic cloud security certification, you are way above the crowd, right? If you can talk, if you come from a development background, you can talk about DevOps and DevSecOps, then you will ace that interview. So I think that there is definitely, if you write a blog post, so you can be creative, right? You don't need to always go through HR. If like people like me have an open LinkedIn connection, you can send me a message with a blog post that you have written. If the blog post makes sense, then we will come out and pick you from all the other people applying to us. I'm interested in making a career in technology. Can you please advise me which is a better technology to choose? Blockchain, cybersecurity, data scientist, data analytics. I would say leave blockchain. It's extremely complicated, especially if you don't come from a technology background. We have a lot of non-tech people in cybersecurity, in data analytics, so those fields could be definitely interesting. Anything can be done. You can even learn programming and get into mobile app programming or anything of that sort. So I think 3-4 people have asked the same question about cloud, or all of these are very high potential. Cloud is high potential, cybersecurity is high potential, data analytics is high potential. Now is a good time, when you don't get jobs, now is a good time to build your skill sets uh, and learn, do online courses, etc., etc. Nitin, any courses you can recommend to start a career in InfoSec? Yeah, you can sign up for our digital learning platform. So if you contact us on iisecurity.in, you can. This is good time to push my own stuff. So you can go ahead and join one of our classes. This Nitin, again, brilliant question. With data in a multi-cloud environment, what do you suggest for data monitoring, visibility, and control? So there are actually apps available which give you a single pane of glass view across all your multiple cloud environments. You can explore those. They not only tell you about your usage and metrics and costs, etc., but they also tell you about the security levels across all your cloud environments in a single pane of glass. So you can definitely look at that. Okay, we'll take the last question, folks. I am totally dependent on my smartphone for banking, fund transfer, payments. How do we make sure we keep our phone devices secured? Simple stuff, don't have a weak unlock code. For example, mine is my fingerprint. I don't actually give it to my kids. My kids are amazed at how the phone magically unlocks. They haven't figured out that I discreetly put my finger at the back of it. For quite a while, my kids thought that it is a facial recognition because I bring the phone like this and unlock it. So one time she thought it's my nose that is used to unlock it. Anyway, I keep that a mystery right now. So don't share your passcode with people around. Keep the OS updated. Uh, don't disable the setting that that enforces unlocking downloading from the official app store. So ensure that you download apps only from the official store. Yeah, and generally be discreet when you're sharing stuff, right? I don't think people really want to know everything you're eating and doing and staying and living and talking or thinking. So maybe share less is my thought in terms of keeping. I will keep especially family photographs. Like I don't upload family related stuff much on social media. I don't have a Facebook account. My Insta account is dead. I don't have the Instagram app on my phone. So, I keep all of these things as some of the measures at my end. So folks, I think that's all that we'll do for today. I really enjoyed the session. I hope you all did too. I don't know if Anurag was able to get the link to the. Oh, there you are. Yeah. So Anurag has put the cloud security checklist link on the chat, so you can pick it up from there. And that's it. I hope you took away something interesting from today's session. Thank you very much. Wish you all a nice day and a nice weekend ahead.
Thank you so much, KK, and thank you everyone for attending the webinar. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.